Very interesting conversation. Another interesting conversation is that co-main event. Let's stay on that same event because I mean that actually was a lot more fun than I expected. Nate Robinson getting knocked the fuck out by Jake Paul. So there were 3 knockdowns in that fight. Jake first in the first round caught up with the overhand right, just as he turned out as Nate charged in. Nate kept on charging in wild shots and then clinching up. He had no idea what he was doing in there.
Yeah, no.
Jake didn't quite know how to I guess keep him off him and how to counter him on the way in, but he looked a lot more composed than Nate did, and he started to find that counter right as the fight went on. That first one hit him right over on top of the ear, and it completely fucked his equilibrium. And we've seen that happen in MMA quite a bit. We've seen this happen to Deontay Wilder. When you're hit in that behind the ear area, your balance is completely just fucked for a while.
Yeah, and you could tell.
And you could tell, and he was trying to milk it, say, oh, back of the head, back. It was clearly not. The referee gave him more time than he should have, I think, absolutely. He gave him a solid 15, 20 seconds. Not the standard. But regardless, he went back in there, almost fell over, finished off the round, and then the second round got knocked down again. I thought it was over. Nate got back up, did not look like he wanted to continue. I thought he was, like, I don't know why the ref let him continue. He looked like he did not want to be in there. And very, very quickly got a straight right on the jaw and face planted. That was ugly. And Jake, by the way, sorry to rant on here. One more point. Jake did not look happy. Jake looked a little bit like, holy fuck, what did I just do to him, man? Like, he looked a little bit scared. There's a little bit of
actually,
fear there.
I caught that a little bit. He definitely seemed like not like the immediate celebration you see out of some of the killers.
Right.
I don't think he's like a fighter at heart. I think he's just
empathy.
A guy.
Too much empathy.
Yeah.
As much of a dick as you might think he is, as much as you might hate him, he clearly was empathetic about this guy. He clearly felt bad about knocking him out.
I don't know if it was that clear. I think that, you know, it could have been anything. He could have just been shocked at the power in his own hands, or just like in awe at the fact that he just knocked out a fucking professional athlete. I don't know if it was that he felt bad about it necessarily. Maybe. But
what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, he hasn't experienced like his entirety of like having an amateur career, and like growing up with the sport, like gaining an understanding, like, okay, if I take a loss, if I win, like what are the impacts on me versus my opponent? Like, he hasn't experienced all that. He's just thrown in there and it's like televised on TV. So him probably like getting his first real KO.
I disagree, because he's been in there. He's done this 3 times. The first was amateur. Yes, it was amateur, but it was an amateur match, but it was hugely broadcasted. The second was a professional match, hugely broadcasted. He gets a KO and he jumps on. He celebrates, but it was a TKO. It was a referee stoppage.
Right.
And then this one, he knocks the guy out, and he's like, "Oh, holy shit!"
Right. Which, like, what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, he hasn't experienced that yet. So he was probably frankly just surprised at like what just happened.
He was scared. He's like, fuck, like, I see this guy face plant. Like, I can understand, because you know that brain trauma does something. The guy's out cold. The guy was he looked worried when the guy was unconscious.
Yeah, it was a bad knockout.
And he knows how to sell fights. He did a great job, to be honest. In all the pre-fight interviews, the way he spoke was just like a guy, he looks like a guy who was studying McGregor, that was studying the big talkers, the big shot callers, and he did it well. Honestly, he knows how to promote himself.
Yeah.
I just expected him to go and show off, but when he sees the guy is still not awake for a few seconds, he's like, fuck, I hope I didn't just kill this dude. Like, I can genuinely understand why, especially if, as you say, you don't have the experience, you haven't knocked someone out, and you knock someone out and you see them unconscious for a few minutes, you're like, fuck, did I just kill this guy? Like, I know deaths do happen in boxing. Like, this is not what I meant to be. Like, I am not doing this to be the champion. I don't have that mindset coming in to murder you. I'm coming in as like, this is fun, this is whatever, but like, that's not what I meant. I mean to kill you, right? Yeah, like, I can see why he's scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's just in it for self-promotion, and anyway, he's just looking for, you know, if Jake Paul could have gotten as big, just like making like shitty music.
I disagree. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, but if he could have had the same exact level of outreach and promotion just doing that, which the boxing absolutely adds to, like, I mean, he's good at marketing himself. He's putting himself everywhere.
I think he genuinely likes it.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. I mean, he looked like he's clearly been training. He's absolutely been training. I mean, he looked like a guy who's probably been training for about a year
and a half. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, like, clearly, yeah, he likes it, but I think that I think his number one priority is self-promotion. He's gonna go wherever he feels that he's gonna be able to, market himself to the widest possible audience.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure there's also, like, boxing, they're making a choice as well to bring him on. Boxing is, I mean, I think Mike Tyson said in an interview just last night, he's like, the UFC's been kicking our ass. We owe a lot to Jake Paul for bringing, like, young people to boxing and getting attention back on boxing. So I'm sure that there are a number of different enterprises and things that Jake Paul could have been getting involved in. But that boxing just gave him fucking some crazy offers and shit.
I gotta say, no, I don't think anybody is genuinely not at all a boxing fan watches the Jake Paul fight and becomes a boxing fan. I just don't think that's gonna be a real thing. I really don't. I don't see us. We're MMA. Look at it this way, Noah. You're an MMA fan already. You watch that fight. Are you now any more likely to watch the next big boxing fight?
Yeah, but we're in our 20s. Jake Paul fight is the people. Like, who a Jake Paul fight is really marketed towards are young people who are, like, between, like, when I became a UFC fan for the first time, when I was, like, between, like, 11 and 13. I think they're trying to market,
No. He's older than that. He has a much older. He has a way older target audience than that. He's
Jake
more
Paul?
like
No.
Nowadays for
they're
sure,
like
dude.
young. I mean, I don't even know what he's doing nowadays other than fighting.
No.
But no, he's got a young audience. There's no way. Anymore. I don't know, so I can't really argue with you, but I can't allow myself to believe that people older than 13 are watching.
No, the
Jake
audience.
Paul,
No, dude, you have to understand the audience has grown and the creators have also grown. Like, they've gotten older, they've changed their content, they've gotten more mature. As much as you might not, they have definitely gotten more mature, and their content has matured, and their audience has matured with it. It genuinely is. Like, I've seen some of the newer stuff. To be honest, I never watched their older shit. I've seen some of the newer shit. It actually is very much not for 12-year-olds at all. In addition,
I mean, their shit was never for 12-year-olds. Their shit was always very bad for young people to watch.
No, but I don't know. It does actually seem something like it's marketed for someone close to my age. But I just wanted to bring up in a different.
I'm gonna just have to clear my mind after that horrible thing you just said to me.
We are the same age. Saying that you haven't watched
the same age.
Yes, you haven't watched this shit in the last year, so you don't know.
And I won't ever know. I don't ever need to know.
So then you you have no basis to make an argument.
I already said that, motherfucker. I also told you that for my own mental health, I have to I have to imagine that people over 13 are not interested in Jake Paul.
All right. So then Noah, I wanted to bring in one other point. So there is a guy, Jake actually has a brother, an older brother named Logan. So there was a video of, I don't know when this came out, something like maybe 6-8 months ago. We know remember those Russian slap contests, right?
Oh yeah.
Everyone knows those. Logan Paul was going to go fly to Moscow and compete.
Yeah, I remember this.
And he brings in a guy who's competed, this huge, like 300-pound hulk of a man, to go and teach him. And the guy's like, okay, you can get one slap on me first, and then I go on you. And you go as hard as you can, wind up, do everything you fucking can, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Logan goes, winds up, and knocks the guy clean out. The guy does not. The guy is like, what's going on? Where am I? Like, clean over. And Logan decided not to go to Moscow because he was scared of doing that to another person. I'm now thinking of him. I'm comparing that to the Jake Paul. I can kind of understand to the Jake Paul scenario or situation, to this whole thing about Jake. I know we're bringing back an older conversation of Jake looking scared after he knocked a guy out. This is clearly something his brother has experienced the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's just because they are just being thrown into this like completely new environment. Like they're not growing with the sport.
It's not completely new, but I don't think they've ever knocked someone clean out is the idea.
Yeah. I mean, they're new.
But they've knocked people out before, just not like that.
If you grow up, I think, like Adam, what you're kind of getting at, if you grow up, training in martial arts, going in local tournaments, and whatnot from a young age, by the time you get to like, if you're skilled enough to get onto like a professional or even like a regional scene, by the time you get to that point, if you've been growing up with it, you get a knockout, it's not going to be like scary to you anymore.
Why not?
It's just like a thing that you do.
Everyone has a first knockout though. Everyone that gets knockouts has a first time they got a knockout.
Yeah,
and
I'm saying,
wouldn't they react in that way?
If that starts when you're young, if like your first knockout happens when you're maybe in like a tournament when you're like 14, by the time you're like 23, 24, 25, getting into like, if you're skilled enough to get into the UFC, a knockout's like just another thing that you do.
Right. Like I'm sure the first
I'm less
time
sensitive over
that,
time.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm sure the first time that Conor McGregor knocked somebody out when he was very young and like just starting competing, I'm sure he was probably had a similar reaction.
I don't
like,
know.
Oh, crap.
You hear Justin Gaethje
we
talk about
don't
his
know.
first fight. Justin Gaethje said like he has talked about his first fight and he got his nose broken and then he knocked this guy out and he looked at his hand and he said, "Holy shit, that was awesome." Yeah.
I mean, hey,
right?
It's gonna be different depending on the person.
But here's I think something that you said at the very beginning, and I think that this is what summarizes this whole thing, and that Jake Paul is not a killer. He's not a natural born fighter. That's not who he is. Justin Gaethje is as core a fighter's fighter as exists on the fucking planet. So when Justin Gaethje gets his first ever knockout, he looks at his hands and says, "Holy fucking shit, that was awesome. Let's do that again." When fucking Jake Paul gets one, because he's just, a fucking Hollywood guy nowadays, he's like, "Oh fuck, I just did that to, whoa."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of showing he's Hollywood. He's not a boxer.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a fighter.